Your Georgia Bulldogs are taking on the Ole Miss Rebels in Sanford Stadium this Saturday. Top 10 matchup, the biggest game of the college football week. Lane Kiffin had a lot to say about Kirby Smart and the Dogs this week. A lot to say, saying how their backs are up against the wall. No one believes in them. No one can beat Georgia at home, basically. A lot of good stuff. I got the quotes right here. We have a gigantic challenge ahead of us, going to play the number one team in the country at their place at night. That's what Lane Kiffin said on Monday about playing the Dogs. He said the last time someone beat them over there was 5 years ago, was pre-COVID. I can't ask the last coach who beat them about them because he's on their staff. Talking about Will Muschamp, obviously talking about the regular season and the last time someone beat them in Athens. He said there aren't a lot of answers out there about how to beat those guys in Athens. We have to have a really good week of practice. They have elite players and elite staff, and we're playing them on the road. What's the hardest thing to pull off? This is it. He's not wrong, right? I've said it for a while now. Even for Missouri coming into Athens, it was a tough environment, but Sanford Stadium has been louder. That was not some crazy raucous environment in Athens. It needs to be against Ole Miss for sure. No doubt about that. But it's still so tough to beat Georgia between the hedges for a lot of reasons. It's the defense. Sometimes it's the crowd, like Tennessee last year, Notre Dame, and Arkansas, and Kentucky. There's been a lot of games where Sanford Stadium made a real impact on the game. And they did against Missouri at times. It needs to be a full four-quarter effort. But Lane Kiffin, the way he said it, intrigued me too. I mean, he is one of the best offensive minds in the game right now, but he knows it's going to be tough. This is a real tough matchup against a team that is back-to-back national champions too. And I know this team is not last year's team. It's different, right? But he knows how tough it is to go on the road in the SEC, number one. Kirby says that all the time. But even for his offense to go and play well and execute against another elite defense in Georgia, he knows it's tough. Someone asked him about, their days coaching with each other at Alabama. He said Kirby has obviously done an unbelievable job at Georgia. They've got a lot of great players, and their quarterback, Carson Beck, plays really well. So he did give a shout-out to Carson. He said he's smart and has a great arm. He's added the two receivers in the portal to strengthen their position out there. They're as great as advertised. When they have to rise up, they do. This isn't their first rodeo in playing in big games. So, again, he's hitting the nail on the head here. And I think it's Lane being Lane, just kind of, saying how their opponent can be unbeatable at times. He kind of did the same thing with Texas A&M, saying, man, with all that talent they collect, they should be a little better, something to that extent, So, yeah, he's going to it's coach speak, right? Kirby does it all the time. This team's great. That team's great. They do things well. Their quarterback is fantastic. He's a great athlete, this and that. So that's what coaches do. But you could hear it in Lane's voice if you go back and listen to his press conference. There's multiple videos out there on YouTube about it. He's basically saying that this is going to be one of the biggest games, not only in program history, but in his legacy too. He knows if he can lead Ole Miss to beat the number one, number two ranked Georgia Bulldogs in Athens, that's massive for him and, his coaching legacy. He continued on praising Georgia later in the press conference. He said, well, someone asked him, hey, you've coached in a lot of big games, right? He coached in the NFL with the Raiders. He coached at Tennessee. He coached at Southern Cal. Mighty FAU, right? Let's not forget about FAU. They had some big games down there against Florida International, I think. But he said, what is this one? How big is this game against Georgia with your hopes and dreams still out there? I mean, Ole Miss, well, I guess they need help they need Alabama to lose 2 games, which is not going to happen in conference play. But Ole Miss, I still feel could maybe sneak into the playoff if their only loss is to Alabama. They don't win the West. Georgia loses to Ole Miss and Alabama. Other teams fall apart. Who knows, right? But basically, as I finally get to the point, where is this game ranked to you, Lane Kiffin? He said, I feel like this one's different. He was being honest there. He said, this one's different. Whether that's right or wrong, It feels like we're playing with house money. No one expects us to win. We're double-digit underdogs. We're just going to go over there and see what happens, right? So, yeah, he feels like their back's against the wall, and most people aren't picking Ole Miss to win this game. Will they cover? That's another story. They could definitely cover this game. Could it be Georgia's toughest game? I think it could be. Right now, you'd have to say Missouri was, even though Georgia had to come from behind in a big way against Auburn. Maybe Auburn was the toughest game. Coming from behind, I believe they took the lead in the third and fourth quarter at times. But anyway, that was a full four-quarter battle. So was Missouri. South Carolina was like a 3-4 quarter battle, I guess. But Ole Miss can absolutely take them down to the wire if they play their best and they execute the runs and can establish the run on the perimeter like Auburn was able to do with the quarterbacks and like Missouri was able to do. Like I think Florida did occasionally. I think Ray Davis at Kentucky was what he did do was not up the middle, right? It was on the edge. They were getting the running back out there, those long extended plays to the outside of the tackle. That's what this Rebel team can do. Jackson Dart is a good quarterback, but he's not playing well necessarily on the road. He did against Tulane, not necessarily against Alabama and Auburn. We could talk more about that. But you can read all of this. I've written about all this, everything I'm reading. It's over on Dawg Post. You can click the link down below to sign up to our newsletter. It is free. This story's free. Most of our stories this week have been free over on Dawg Post. Some of the stuff is premium that we really work hard to get, the insider scoop. That's all premium. But stuff like this, what Kirby said, what I think Kirby said, it's all over on Dawg Post. It's free to sign up to the news link, and it's free to read the stories. Check us out over on the website if you're enjoying these videos. But where does Lane Kiffin stand as far as the best coaches that have played against Georgia this year? You'd have to rank him towards the top. It's not Billy Napier. It's not Stoops. It's not Eli Drinkwitz, who is getting better and better as a coach. I think he's done a tremendous job at Missouri. It's not Shane Beamer. It's not Shane Beamer. No, it's not him. They're in real trouble at South Carolina, I think. They're bringing in some good players. I'm going off on a tangent. I don't mean to, but just talking to talk, right now. We'll get back to what Lane Kiffin said, but South Carolina's got some issues, man. They better hope the recruiting class they're bringing in right now, and a lot of guys from this current freshman class they have start to step up. But we'll see about that. Ole Miss is a good football team. Beating LSU was a quality win. Beating Auburn on the road by 7, that's quality. Georgia did it by 10. They did it by 7. That's a quality win. Tulane was a quality win on the road. Tulane probably isn't as good, maybe as people thought in the beginning of the season, but that was a stomping. That was a good game. They did not play well against Alabama. Couldn't move the ball much at all. They did not score 30 points against Auburn on the road, and they didn't do it against Alabama on the road. Do we think they can do it in Athens if the crowd gives it their A game and Georgia is elite at getting better defensively? I don't think they're going to get to the 30-point mark, which leads me to believe Georgia might cover because I think Georgia could get close to 40 points, probably should get to 40 points. If Georgia gets to 40, I don't think Ole Miss is going to get to 30. So right now, I think Georgia's going to cover. We'll talk more about that later this week. But Lane Kiffin knows what he's doing. They are going to move the football. They've got good players on offense. I just don't think they can stop Georgia. But he knows what he's up against, and it was fun to kind of watch this interview go down because he's shaking his head the whole time. He's like, man, they're great. Kirby's elite. The players are elite. The program's elite. Yada, yada, yada. Going over there, it's going to be really tough. But he's going to have some tricks up his sleeve, I think. And isn't there Super Bowl? We say that all the time now, right? That's great. It's easy to say that when you cover Georgia, though, because I do think a lot of Ole Miss people are realizing, like, this is might be the biggest, most important SEC game they've had in a long, long time. This is probably the best Ole Miss team we've seen in several years, going back to the beginning of the college football playoff era, where I do think they were in the top 4, maybe that first or second year, right, with Mississippi State. How crazy was that? But they're a really good team. They're going to give Georgia a fight. How much of a fight? I don't know. I think Georgia's going to win the game, and I think I said it a minute ago. I think Georgia wins by at least 10.5, but this is a good team, and I think they will make Georgia earn this victory on Saturday. Lane Kiffin, a lot to say about Kirby Smart and the Dogs. You can read more of that on Dawg Post. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over on the website.